Hello everyone. Phoenix61 here with your Skull and Bones shenanigans for the day. We have a pretty epic, powerful build to show off and showcase, and I will go through everything that I am using, weapons, ship, blah, 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 all that other fun stuff. I'm disappointed though, in year 2, if you've been watching my channel, they changed my drunk girlfriend to a dude. It's not as fun anymore. He gets drunk and pukes just like the other person, the lady did. She was kind of cute. Come on. All right, but anyway, so we're going to show this off. We're going to do some takeovers. I don't know if you've been me, and you get put up against one of these sniper ships, the schooner, I think, right? These can be pretty tough, pretty hefty DPS type ship to go up against. They can snipe the crap out of you and kill you quite quickly. But we are joining this takeover quite late, so we did, in fair enough, we caught him a little off guard, but just look how quick we're able to take him down with this build and these bombards. Now, these are the 1,000-year monsoons. They're a seasonal weapon, so I will show, from past seasons, I will show you, kind of where you got to go to try and get these, right? You may have to be a little patient, too. But the trick here is we've done basically a severe damage build, and so you can see he doesn't have a lot of health when you look at his star there, and it's actually thinking of, like, I kind of was being a jerk and I was gonna actually quit and like leave him have it because I didn't need that location anymore. I knew I had an upper hand, but then he shot me, and but that does highlight the point of where the weakness is for this ship, which is the sloop, which is it's basically its entire backside is one big critical hit or like weak spot, right? So as I was sailing away, he hit me with long guns right in the butt, and that took me out almost instantly, right? So there's a downside to this ship. There's a counter to almost everything in this game. The developers have been pretty good about not making something that's completely unstoppable. The challenge here is, right, we're able to respawn back at sea. Right, notice we're a level 15 ship and he's level 15 ship, right? So the playing field's somewhat even right now, right? But we're able to respawn at sea, and I am using the Ouroboros armor piece, so our severe damage is very slowly ticking away, right, as healing, whereas I don't believe he has anything equipped to deal with severe damage. So as we sink him again and again, you are going to notice, I think maybe this time, I think that was his last chance, right? He eventually had so much severe damage that he now could not respawn back at sea, and he had to go back to his nearest port. And so now we have free reign. So even though he was at, like, I think he had the takeover like 60% done when we joined, right? Yeah. So that was easy pickings, right? So next event here, right, we are in a takeover. This is the prime example, right? We are still level 15, right? So, this is the max, at least at the time of recording. But this is what was happening to me previously, right? You get the sniper ship and he spawns in. He joins your takeover partway through. I got a little too antsy here. And shot him, and so now I'm waiting for guns to reload, and then he's got the backside shot on me, so I'm trying to turn into him so he doesn't have the shot at my butt, but because that's where we know where we're weak. And this is the build that is kind of the challenging one to go up against. A lot of people are using the schooner, this sniper ship build, and they're using the poison long guns, right, to just zap your... It drains your health, drains your stamina, right? It's pretty tough. But we do manage to beat him out there and take him out, right? I think a lot of those folks that are running that build, if they see somebody else, they expect to get the win there. So I don't know, maybe we caught him off guard. But now we're since we were the first one in, right? We were kind of the most hostile. All the, the computer players were still picking on us. So we have a little bit of a disadvantage there, but that is going to be the key to this ship. It's not that big of a deal if you get sunk, respawn at sea. We will live to fight another day because we have the Ouroboros armor piece. We're going to slowly heal back some of our severe damage. That is the other key component here, right? So here you can see how quick he drained our stamina and health with those poison long guns, right? that ship too, right? That ship's got the, you know, that's the special sniper variant ship, right? Where you can have 6 long guns for the bow weapons, right? So it's just, it's brutal, right? But we are going to use the strength of our ship, and we are going to make sure we don't show him our backside this time again. And right, we're going to get a second sink on him. We'll see if he is able to respawn. We're going to see, yeah, the key here is going to be, right, even if you kind of are toe-to-toe throughout the, you know, throughout the takeover, look how little health he had, right, when he's, right, he was able to take us out, not a big deal, right, but he had such a little bit of health that, like, we can, fine, we respawn again, we got this, right, like, I'm still confident we're going to win this one. But that's the challenge of that ship, right, of going up against that ship, is that it's just so quick to take you out, especially if they know where your weak points are and able to hit him. But yeah, so we respawn there, we've got guns loaded, and we were ready for him that time. I think that first time I just wasn't expecting to respawn, like, literally right next to him. So he may have had the leg up and just saw us before we were able to point and shoot. But yeah, so we sink him again, and I think that is his last chance of being sunk, because he either had no way to repair his severe damage, or we just did so much severe damage, right, that there, he just didn't, it didn't, wouldn't even let him, right? So now we are easy sailing, right? He is gone. We are going to be able to win this takeover, no problem, right? So I started this season a little late, right? And so I was like, all right, to continue with this build, right? Let's see if we can drop our ship down a rank and see how we can still fight against level 15 ships, right? So this was before, as I was working my way through this, upgrading this ship. We are up against so you can see down the bottom left, right, I dropped down to level 14, right? This is before I had all the upgrades on the ship. We'll see how we do against this level 15 brigantine. But yes, again, we kind of pulled the jerk move and joined a takeover where he's already at 90%. So I won't show this whole one, but I just want to show just how quick we can take this guy out here. He was at full health. I think he might have taken a hit from one of the NPC ships, right? But we used the Warhammer on him, and then it only takes 2 or 3 shots with the bombards, and he is done, right? So yeah, so being down a ship level gives you a really big disadvantage, and so we were still able to just kind of wreck him super quick. Now, granted, that's not the best. I've seen some people do some pretty good PvP builds in the brigantine, right? But he probably wasn't equipped to fight another player, so we'll give him some slack here. But these guys are, right? We've got a tank build, right? I think a battle junk and a bark that we are up against this round here. I think, right? Is that, or is that a DPS, right? Might be, anyway. But yeah, we're 2 against 1 here. I do kind of be a little cheeky in the beginning of this takeover, where I kind of hung back and let them start fighting each other first. But yeah, so I think the challenging one here is going to be this Overlord guy, because he's running a bark, right? So he does have, that ship just comes standard with severe damage healing, and so he lasts the longest of this fight. But again, still, here we are, you know, it's, I mean, it's not 2-on-1, it's right, it's 1-on-1-on-1, right? But we are level 14, and this this build still wrecks pretty good here. And so yeah, we're gonna work our way through him quite quickly. But then yes, I think our backside was, yeah, I think the other guy maybe got a sniper shot off on me. Oh no, I think it's this time here, right? So we're gonna turn around, because I'm expecting the bark guy to be spawned on the other side, and then yeah, he the guy running the long gun spawns behind me here, and I think he ends up getting a good shot on me. But yeah, so we'll go after this other guy up here, because we did sink the first, you know, that other guy's been sunk, what, twice now, right? So Overlord's going to, you know, the bark's going to use the brace, but we take care of that quite quickly with the rockets, right? And then we'll just keep unloading the bombards on him. Does have us, I think, electrocuted here, so that's going to be the challenge here for this life. But we'll do as much, right? The key is going to be get as much hits as you can, because we're all of these weapons, I've got them modified to do severe damage as well. And so if you can get that severe damage to stack up between lives, then eventually you're going to get to that point, right, where they either can't respawn or they're just going to have so little health that you're going to be able to take them out pretty quickly here, right? So yeah, we're going to go after the bark here. Was that, I guess that other ship must be, is he running a brigantine again? Is that what that ship is? I think that must be a brigantine. Yeah, well, no, because brigantine sails are different. What ship is that? That must be one of the other DPS, yeah. But anyway, so yeah, so we're able to get, you could kind of tell on their like health bar around their square like how much is severe damage versus how much is, you know, regular damage taken, right? But we're gonna take him out again because, right, he's you know, he's circling the drain as far as how much health he's able to have and carry through during the takeover, right? So like I said, in this example, the bark is going to be the challenging one because he's got the ability to heal the severe damage. But again, we are level 14, they're level 15, so they also have both of them have a big advantage over us there just because of the level situation and how much of a boost you get from guns and stuff like, and health from being just leveled up, right? So I did fight a juggernaut, right, or a battle junk, right, in this with this build with being down a level, and I managed to go toe to toe with him through most of the match. But I think he did beat me out, right, where I was still down this level, right? But it's great to just be able to compete against the level 15s as a level 14 while I was working my way through upgrading the ship, right? So take him out, right? And of course, sinking the player always gives you a much bigger boost to the progress of the takeover. And then yeah, this other guy, he's so little health that he's been able to spawn with here that he's just easy pickings. The problem here was we were also low on health as well, but we managed to take him out, and that's going to give us enough, right? We're 100%. The next closest guy was at 49% just because we sank them so many times, right? So let's talk build. This is what you guys came for, right? Enough showing it off for now. We'll do a little bit more gameplay after this. But right, we are in the sloop, which comes with the standard name Blaster. The tricks to this thing are the perks here. Explosive, you know, once you get it fully upgraded here, right, explosive hits have a 50% chance of triggering an explosion, which deals 1500 damage within a blast radius of 150 meters. There's a trick to that we're trying to play into with the bombards. I will talk about that. But yes, increased damage to structures, that's fine. Explosive damage by 15% more. You also get Ruin, which nerfs incoming damage a little bit. And then you also get the heavy arsenal, increased damage and repair amount by 50% on broadside weapons, right? So those 3 bombards on each side get a boost to damage as well. There's just kind of the stats of the ship, right? You don't get a lot of hull health with this, right? But yes, we're using 1,000-year monsoons. They're previous seasonal weapons. So if you don't have those, I can show you where to get them. You just may have to be a little patient, right? Ouroboros is the armor piece that we're using. That's the key to getting some healing for your severe damage. And I'll go through all of these furniture pieces in detail as well. I think I end up switching one of these out, you know, while I'm showing this off here. But that's just kind of the highlight, right? But we'll go into each one and kind of show you what I'm building into here. So the 1,000-year monsoons, most of these I have kind of, you know, you can see I've got them ascended all the way up, so we're able to choose an additional 3 perks on them. But they automatically come with a 15% chance to deal 2,500 severe damage, and that goes up to 30% chance when the target ship is flooded. And of course, they come with flooding 2, so some of their damage is doing flooding. And then they also have explosive 1, which is key to using the sloop because you want to be doing explosive damage. For the modifications that we chose, right, from doing ascension on the weapons, right, I chose combust. You might think that doesn't make sense there, but it says every hit deals an extra burst of 46 explosive damage. My thought process here is if that's counting as an extra explosive hit, then I'm stacking on to the ship's perk where the ship gets a 50% chance of doing 1500 explosive damage for every explosive hit that you get. So, right, so I think that that's how it's working. If I'm wrong about that, that's probably not the best perk to pick for the slot 1. But for the slots 2 and 3, I'm using either the soul mending, so the healing, or the option that grants a chance for additional severe damage, right? So I have these all worked out similarly the same way, right? You only get so many rerolls for all those perks, and so it becomes a challenge of how many rerolls versus how much materials and coins you have, right? And silver you have, right? But for the most part, I have got those all sort of worked the same way. The Warhammer is the Ox weapon. It also does explosive damage, right? So I'm also using the additional, like, creates an additional burst of explosive damage per hit perk for slot 1 for the Ascension choice. Because same reason, right? My expectation is the ship has a perk where for each explosive hit, you have a 50% chance of doing an additional 1500 explosive damage. And so my thought is that counts as an extra hit. I may be wrong, but it feels right. Like, it feels like it's working, right? So, and then you could do soul mending on one of these perks, but I doubled up on severity. So, so each hit has a 12% chance and another 12% chance to do 108,000 damage as severe damage as well. So that's going to be the key to making sure that they take severe damage and then come in with less health when they respawn, and then eventually they can't even respawn, right? So Ouroboros is going to be the armor piece that I picked here. It is not the strongest armor piece, I'll give it that, but it has the restoration perk, which restores 100 severe damage every second, right? So when you do have to respawn from getting killed by, say, with a sniper ships, you can come back into the fight and slowly get some severe damage back. It does have the 15% of damage braced is converted to restoring hull health. That is sometimes almost not even noticeable, but it could be helpful, right? But yeah, we're really there for the restoration on the armor piece. We're there for that perk. We'll go into furniture. Some of these are this season's furniture, right? So for the major furniture piece, I'm using this triggered shell shocked on target increases reload time of their weapons, right? So they'll have slower reload even after they've gotten shell shocked. And then increased secondary damage of explosive weapons, right? So all of our weapons that we're using have some explosive damage to them, and then increase even more damage, right? Breach lock furnace increases secondary damage dealt by up to 30% the closer the target is, right? So your bombards are doing both explosive and flooding, so that's a boost to that. Increased charge rate of the shell shock, we like that, right? Expanding corkscrew station increases secondary damage of flooding weapons, that's giving us even more flood damage, and increases the range of the flood weapons, right? That's not as big of a deal, but... And then Ramrod Workshop, decrease reload time of broadside weapons, increases secondary damage dealt by broadside weapons by another 10%, right? So we are really stacking on the flood and explosive damage here. Shell packing station, increase area effect radius of bombard weapons by 7% and increases their reload. This is the one I'm kind of like, you could pick something else. So I think in a minute here I go in and pick something else, right? But that's one where I think you do you, right? You can mix up any of these, right? But this just happens to be what I was using, smoking, I don't get air, whatever. But one thing to note here, right? Bombard Works 1 is my last choice here. Increases secondary damage of bombard by 19%, right? So that's both the flood damage and the explosive damage. Don't sleep on these older, lower level furniture pieces, guys, right? The one thing to note would be the lower gear score, so that might drop you down a ship level. But, if we look at what our secondary damage is doing on these bombards, right? 1187 for flood and 593 for explosive. I'm going to show you the difference when I take off the bombard works, right? So watch when I get rid of this that furniture piece. Now we'll look at the secondary damage, right? It's dropped down to 1045 and 522, right? So that's a good that's a pretty significant drop, right, from not having that bombard work. So yeah, don't sleep on some of those older, picks there, right? I think what I end up going for that fifth furniture piece here is this Destiny Furnace. I think I like that better. So let's find the bombard works again here too. I always forget which one that is. Here we go. Yep, bombard works 1. We'll put that back on slot 6. And then for slot 5, I want to change this out to give us the this one that increases the charge rate of the flooded status effect and increases the duration of the flooded status effect, right? Because them having a longer duration of being flooded is going to give our 1,000-year monsoons a greater chance to cause more severe damage. Okay, so if you don't have 1,000-year monsoons, right, with the older seasonal weapons, right, you're kind of limited to, to checking Skurlock and the black market. So I'll show you those guys. I'm sure you know those guys, right? But let's go. Yeah, man, it's sweet. So what I want to kind of highlight again here, though, let's talk about the ascension of these weapons, right? So Outburst is kind of the perk we're trying to play against here, where explosive hits have a 50% chance of triggering an additional explosion, which deals 1,500 damage, right? And that can like chain react across ships, so it works really good for groups of ships. But let's talk ascension, right? So we'll go into one of these here, right? So I have the combust, right? So my hope is that picking that perk, that combust perk, having it every hit deals an extra burst of 46 explosive damage. That's not much, right? So, but if that's counting as an extra explosive hit, then that's giving me more chances to trigger the ship's perk, where we would potentially get another 1,500 explosive damage that has area effect and blah, 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 right? But if I'm wrong about that, that's probably not the way to go, and I would probably pick one of these other perks that that adds like a % amount of damage. So if you wanted to go explosive or flooding, those would probably be good choices to stack onto here. But any of the other ones like electric or burn, right, like but that's just my thought process behind why I picked combust. It feels like it's working, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll sit there and shoot like one bombard at a time at a ship and try and like count the explosions, and like when it happens, it's just sometimes there's so many it's hard to tell. My other two choices are the severity and soul mending, right? So those can roll on either of slot 2 or slot 3 when you're rolling those, right? So my opinion here is, if you really want to lay into the PvP space, I would go for severity in both the second and third slot. If you're not as into, kicking people's butts in the takeovers, or you don't like playing PvP as much, I think the severity is kind of a wasted perk, and I would maybe go for the healing or pretty much any of the other like damage increasing, right? The % damage increasing perks, right? So I think like on this one, so on this one, I ran out of rolls. I couldn't reforge it anymore. So I quit and left it on the amplified flooding, right? Increase existing flooding damage by 31% is pretty significant, right? But it does have severity for slot 2, right? So that's going to be the challenge there. So what I did was, when I was rolling these, I unlocked all 3 slots, and then I would pick for slots 2 and 3, I would kind of go in and just pick something acceptable. Like I would re-roll it maybe a couple of times here, and I'm like, okay, that one I'm okay with. And then I would prioritize that first slot to try and get that additional explosive damage, right? Because that's what I was trying to play into. If it's working, that was the right thing to do. If not, then I've wasted a ton of rerolls. But yeah, we'll talk about how to get these, right? So William Blackwood always has he's going to have the current season items for sale for his seasonal currency, which right now is Kupfer bars, right? And so some of the furniture pieces I was using, I think 1 or 2 of the furniture pieces I was using are in here right now for this season, right? If it's if it's past that season, then right, you're gonna be limited to this lower section of his store, which is these time limited items, which does have previous season items in it occasionally, but it's like, it's limited, right? So right now he's got Phoenix Talons and these carronades, right? So these you maybe could do a similar build with these carronades, right? But when these first came out, I was playing around with them, and I felt like they were a little bit underpowered, so I haven't tried to build anything into these yet this year. But yeah, but those 1,000-year monsoons have always felt pretty strong. But Blackwood would be probably your best bet for just checking his cycling stock every week and see if he has 1,000-year monsoons, and then go in and try and buy 4. Try and save up enough currency to buy 4 of them, right? So you could fully outfit a ship. You need a Nara, right? The black market person is also going to have items as well. There's a couple of things you could try from her. I think she does sell like a rotating stock as well. Like, yeah, she's got Leopold in here, but the thing to note here was she sells these legacy caches, right? So you can see that possible loot, the 1,000-year monsoons, is in there, right? So you're in a little bit of a pickle there, right? If you're trying to do anything with your pieces of 8, you probably won't want to buy a lot of those. She does sell some of them for sovereigns as well. So if you're a veteran of the game and you've got a bunch of leftover sovereigns, you could go and take the chance and buy a bunch of those too. I think even if the 1,000-year monsoon isn't listed in the possible loot like you see it here, I think that those legacy caches can drop any previous seasonal item, right? They don't have to be, I think they only just list the first few, right? But yeah, she's got some blueprints and stuff in here. I think this general section, I think this is this stuff that she just always has, right? But those would be your key ways to get it, right? Check Blackwood and the black market rotating stock, and then you could take your chances on just buying a bunch of those legacy caches. The blacksmith does sell, you can craft flooding bombards 3s. They do have explosive and flood damage there, right? But you're missing out on that initial perk that has the additional like chance to cause severe damage. So that's why the 1,000-year monsoons are better. So you could try and do it that way, right? I would just try and be patient and wait till you find them on a rotating stock from like Blackwood or something, and just buy the 1,000-year monsoons. They're gonna be that much better. This build isn't like it's great for player versus enemy, player versus environment, right? PVE. So if you're not doing PvP stuff, it works really good here as well. So I was doing some boss fight, right? We picked the Flames of the Phoenix boss fight to do solo here, and you could see like between the 1,000-year monsoons, right, between the bombards and the rockets, right, we're doing pretty chunky damage to her health bar here. And then yeah, like I said, like going up against regular enemies isn't as critical to like watch your backside. They do hit you there still sometimes, right? But they're not, a good PvP player is going to know you're going to have that weak spot on your back, so you really got to watch yourself there. And then you also do have to keep in mind the health pool isn't the biggest for this ship. It's a small ship. Even maxed out health, I think we were at like 48,000, health pool, for our whole health points. But yeah, we can take her out pretty easily. It only took, I don't know, like 2 or 3 minutes total. I think I skipped ahead halfway through this fight here, just for the sake of time of the video. But yeah, so I think if you're going for, if you're not into the PV, player versus player stuff as much, I think the severe damage is probably not worth it. You can kind of tell if you look at her health bar at the very top towards the right, you can kind of see the severe damage that's done, like over on the right. It's only like maybe a quarter of her health through that whole fight, right? It's just so rare that that like severe damage is useful against player versus player. Now this build is really good for, you can see all those explosions we triggered. This build is really good for like factory defenses and like convoys and stuff where enemies are kind of clustered together, because you're gonna, when you trigger those explosions, right, when you get that 50% chance to trigger 1,500 damage dealing explosive damage that has a blast radius, they're kind of, you could see it there again. You get kind of a chain reaction where it's causing explosions on ships next to whoever you're attacking, and then if those ships are close enough to other ships, they're also having that radius, that explosive radius explosion happening around them. So then it can just, it can be a chain reaction, can go through a ton of ships. So it does work really well for things like the, even just hostile, just regular takeovers in general. But then also like things like the factory defenses, where there's just like waves of enemies that are tough to just, you just get overwhelmed by how many there are, right? This build can kind of work pretty good for that too. And then, like I said, like those convoys where there's lots of ships grouped together, you can do good chunky damage to like all groups of them as well at once, right? But thanks for watching my video, guys. I do plan to keep playing Skull and Bones again this year. I do have all my previous Skull and Bones content in a link in the description. So check that out as well if you're trying to figure out how to get your ship upgraded and all that other fun stuff. Check out some of my more recent stuff. But thanks for watching. Make sure you're following. We'll see you next time.